Hello and welcome to the Ballcard Show, the esports podcast.
For the esports collector,
I'm Jason Otero.
I'm Gary LeMaster.
And this is Season 6 and Episode 8. We are back from our biggest show that we have ever set up, the National in Nashville, Tennessee. Are you still tired, Gary? Because I am catching up still.
I'm catching up. Yesterday was brutal. I got up. I knew I needed to source. We sold so much inventory.
Yeah.
So I went to my normal Monday stop, and it was a chore. I was tired. I got home and I looked at what I needed to price, what I needed to separate out for whatnot. If you guys follow us on Instagram, you saw both of our stories where we were both just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to. I just want to sleep.
I posted something Monday morning. So like with eBay, I've kind of learned like there's metrics that I try to keep every day of shipping and listing and blah, blah, blah. And if I'm going to be gone and I wouldn't be heartbroken if it was slowed down a little bit, I'll stop it. So like Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll quit listing. I'll make sure I'm caught up on my shipping before I leave, but I'm not going to like feed the machine because I want it to be a little slower. I wouldn't be mad if I came back from a 3-day trip to 200 orders over the weekend. And then, like most of them multi-quantity. I was like, well, there's no point. Like I shouldn't complain, but the people saying, I wish I was at, you can have it too. We can all have it, but it's becoming a thing, man. I don't know. The time everybody that listens to this is like, are you still talking about your eBay store?
Yeah.
Do something about it.
You called me at about 3:00 and you said, hey, you got some time? And I went, yeah, I'm just driving right now. You said, good. Because, let's figure out what we're talking about for sure tomorrow. Let's hammer out what things look like this week, because at 4:00, I'm done. I'm not reachable. This is the end of the day for me. And I mean, at the end of the show, like we get back home and listen, if you're in business with somebody, if you're friends with somebody that you're not married to or related to, it doesn't matter how much you love that person. It doesn't matter how much you enjoy spending time with them. When you're with somebody for 72 hours straight, the only time you are not in their presence is if you're on the toilet.
Yeah.
You're ready to be done for a minute.
And when you share a hotel, you kind of share that experience as well.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
I mean, I didn't think there was anything too nuts about
you were
the
well
hotel
behaved.
situation.
Whoa. Hey. I misheard what you said.
Oh.
I realized halfway into laughing, I look like an idiot now. My bad. Yeah, no, I mean, we're like, by the end of the trip, we're siblings, and we've been standing within 6 feet from each other. It is what it is. Good thing we were really busy. I will say this. Obese men will never realize how fat they are until you just do 3 days of letting gravity do its work with your feet on a concrete floor.
Oh, God. It was bad.
I'm just going to exist while being fat on this concrete for 3 days, and then I'm going to get in the car on the ride back and feel like I just did the Murph with CrossFit 3 times.
You laughed at me every time we stopped because getting out of the car was a series of creaks, groans,
Gary was like
noises.
A folding chair, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps.
And he's up. So, hey, before we get too deep in, we have a new segment that we're going to show you here in just a minute. About a month and a half ago, and we got a lot of great feedback on it. We interviewed JT from Triple Crown 24, great YouTube channel. If you haven't seen that interview, go watch it. And if you haven't yet, go follow him on socials.
Yeah,
great guy. He's semi-local to us, and he is going to be a new contributor to the Ballcard Show. It's not going to be every single week, but it's going to be occasional. Right, when he finds something cool. So check out this new segment from JT at Triple Crown 24 called Out of the Box.
This past weekend at Eastgate, I found this 1999 Upper Deck Black Diamond Javon Curse Final Cut Gold numbered to 50 in a value box. And I tell people all the time, there's a huge difference between a out of 50 card from 1999 and an out of 50 card from 2026. Today, we've become really numb to low-numbered cards. It seems like the 1 of 1s and the out of 10s are what we're really chasing. Out of 50, that's cool, but it's something that we see pretty common. Not so much back in the 90s and early 2000s. Cards that were numbered under 100 are really difficult to find. And that's evident by the sales history of this card. This card has only sold a handful of times over the years per card ladder. I was stoked to find this in a $5 box. I didn't know exactly how much I could get for it, but I knew for sure that it was worth more than the $5. This is a card that someone out there has probably been looking for and just needed someone like me to come along and dig it out of the box that it was sitting in.
All right, so for those of you, especially those of you that kind of found your way into the Ballcard Show because of the content around the low end and the bargain box value, eBay, and moving that kind of stuff, we'd really encourage you to go give JT a follow. And here's why. JT does something with his content that I know there's other people that do that, but I don't think they do it as well as him. I'll just say it the way that I feel it. He will pause, like he'll have shots of him at a show from behind the table working deals. And when something interesting is happening, he'll pause and he'll spend 3 minutes just walking through his mindset. Here's what I know about the card. Here's what's happening in the negotiation. Here's what the thing that the buyer said that makes me think X, Y, or Z. So for those of you that are just gaining experience and you feel intimidation with shows, I can't encourage it enough. But the stuff JT finds, man, he is lethal in those boxes. Absolutely lethal. So take notes, listen to the things that he's looking for, the reasons he believes cards will be worth pulling out of the box, and should be something to help you out with. And by the end of the year, I mean, there should be, 30, 50 new cards that you're looking for that you hadn't even had on the radar before. So,
or at least
I think
the
that's
types
awesome
of things to look for.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go give him a follow. He always has cool cards in his showcase if you see him set up. He's down around the Cincinnati area, but he's all over the Midwest just like us and a lot of the big Nashville shows too. So
while we were in Nashville, Fanatics did their giant promotion at shops all across the country on Saturday night, Topps Hobby Rip Night.
Yeah. I felt it for Grand Slam Collectibles a little bit because they had at the Nashville show, 20 tables. I don't know. It's huge.
It was a 12 table.
12 table box. Yeah. And they had to pack up. I'm just thinking, man, you have to get all this stuff in, massive show, pack everything up, put on a show there. But once again, I will say this to the nth degree. Fanatics has taken a massive step forward in the collector experience in regards to what they do that is special at hobby shops.
Well, they have taken a big step forward versus what we've seen for the last 15 years.
Yes,
where
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think the difference is that Fanatics is trying as a manufacturer to directly engage the end consumer in a way that Panini never did, that Topps never did before Fanatics. Like Topps Hobby Rip Night has been around for years and years and years. But in the past, it was, hey, here's some packs to give away at your shop. You do your own thing.
Yeah.
Now Fanatics is driving a lot of the content and really pushing the LCSs to do it. We were set up with Underdog Collectibles out of Knoxville, Tennessee. They had a huge Hobby Rip Night.
Huge shout out to them.
Oh yeah,
taking care of us. Like that meant so much to us. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Biggest show we've set up at, but the opportunity for somebody to say, "Hey, yeah," and what I love was what we connected through was a local buyer and seller that had a connection that we built relationships over time. Just saying, "Hey, this might be a fit. I think you guys would, he maybe will hook you up on that." So anyway, I interrupted you, but
no, that's okay. But so they had a huge one. Our friends up at Mars Cards in Cleveland, they showed their stuff. Our friend Vic, who, if you are a Deep Track podcast listener, our second season on the pod, Vic was a guy who he owns Boomtown Sports Cards in San Antonio, Texas. Vic was a guy that Jason and I met on Facebook. This dude has grinded his way.
Absolutely.
He was doing dollar dice rolls on Facebook and pull boxes. And then he worked his way up with his group to retail blaster breaks.
We would all be messaging each other on Facebook of like, hey, message so-and-so because we still have 3 more spots on this box.
Yeah.
Like, right before everything popped. And then when everything went nuts at COVID, it was a whole different thing. But like we were so excited to get the Reds in a Series 1 hobby. I'm going to get 20 cards total, maybe a couple rookies, but it was so fun, man.
And Vic worked his butt off and built that room. And then he got some allocation as a breaker for the room. It wasn't much.
Right.
And then he decided to go all in. And you know what? I don't care what business you decide you're going to be in. If you have the balls to just take your entire, everything that makes your life work financially and go all in on a business, props.
At one of the hardest times to do it.
Yes. And he did that. And now this guy has Wemby in his shop 2 or 3 times a year. He's sponsoring stuff at Spurs games. And they had he
held a show. Yeah.
They had a massive hobby rip night. Looked like there were probably 300 or 400 people in that shop, and they're ripping in time with each other. So it's a really cool thing to see.
Because what we do point out a lot of times is we point out the stuff that we're super annoyed at, and there's plenty of that. But when it comes to Fanatics trying to actually bring the collector closer to the experience, which is what they're supposed to be doing, I feel like they really are checking those boxes. I feel like when you look at what and where this is a rabbit trail a little bit, but you look at Fanatics Fest, that experience is different than anything else that exists. And I know
it's not a card show.
Yeah, at first everybody's like, "Oh, they're trying to compete with the Nashville." No, they're not.
Nope.
They're trying to create an experience that helps people to connect this dot. There is accessibilities to experiencing the game, and I'm closer to the athletes when I'm collecting. Period. And as a card collector, I think subconsciously we would all say, well, that's kind of true. Even if I'm not going to meet so-and-so, I'm a little more connected this way. I'm engaged a little more with that. So that hobby rip night is super fun. It was interesting seeing all the rip night Cooper flags walk up. I had a red, and I think that I might be off on this a little bit, but it was something crazy like 700, 500, 200, and then 150 by morning.
Well, and then 110.
110.
Yeah,
and somebody's like,
every sale was less than the last. Which is normal. It's not a rare thing.
That's not a card I'm going to average the comps on.
No, I'm going off the last one. Yeah, I tried, but it's like,
I didn't even want to play off the last one because that's not the landing spot yet. It's less than 24 hours.
To me, it was buy it off of the last one and sell it within an hour. Like that was where my head was at on it. The seller wasn't too interested in that, but that's okay.
Hobby Rip Night's great. I think that is a super positive thing that Fanatics is doing. Wow, there are many things I don't like about I don't think gatekeeping is the right word, but just this emphasis of no more shops, we can be hypocritical to say, oh, they should just be opening shops left and right, when we're also saying, PSA, shut it down if you can't get it right. You know, like shut down the grading, slow it down. So there's a dance with this. We're not fanboying Fanatics by any means.
No, but I think they're cognizant of the idea and the fact. I think they're well versed in what caused the sports card market to completely collapse in the early 90s.
Yeah.
I think they understand what caused it.
Sure.
And they don't want to repeat that. They're gonna toe up as far to the line of production as they can without pushing everything over it, because that hurts them if they do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I was very encouraged to see the engagement with that. It's not something that just happened once when the licensing changed. It's not something that's, now, does every LCS owner want to have to put on a big production with this? No. But the ones that fight it, I don't think that's going to be a winning battle. I think that's the way I would put it. You got to engage on some level. It doesn't mean everything's going to be the biggest thing in the world, but I think it's important that there's at least that's one of the good things, right? Here's some free packs, get some people excited, give them out, that kind of thing.
I think that there is a direct correlation between if you're an LCS owner and you're watching this, there's a direct correlation between your willingness to play the game the way Fanatics wants you to play the game and your ability to get product and all that fun stuff.
Right.
At the end of the day, there's a creator out on the West Coast. His name's Keen. Some of you guys may follow him. He does really good content.
Yeah, he does.
And he did a little post the other day that was a really great reminder. And if you don't like the way Fanatics does stuff, guess who doesn't care? Fanatics. They don't care whether you like it or not. They're going to say you're going to do things. And the point was, if you're trying to do business like you did in 1995 with a Beckett magazine,
sure,
you're a dinosaur, and you're not going to be able to carry those exact same business principles into now. If you're a shop and you're saying, hey, they keep cutting my allocations, I can't get X, Y, and Z. They want high quality content. They want you engaging on social media. They want you pumping their brand out there. If you're not willing to do that, that's okay. You don't have to, but you better change the way you make money in your shop to singles instead of wax.
Yeah. Which is not really being encouraged.
No.
But that's what's going to happen.
Yep.
That's where that's heading. Okay. Hobby Rip Night was pretty good. Now we're going to do a new segment that we have not titled yet because we don't want to have a bad name.
We want your help.
About a name. Do we want to tell them the name we thought about?
I loved the name.
Ballcard Mailbag Ball Sack.
Yeah.
But I don't think, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if people will.
We want your help in naming it. And here's where you're going to do that. We have a Discord now.
Yeah.
And we have been blown away by the growth rate within that Discord in just a few days. So if you haven't done so yet, the link tree to all of our stuff is in the description to this video. Yep. Go click on it, go hop in the Discord and help us name this segment. We want it to be fun. We want it to be maybe a little edgy and funny, but within that PG-13 realm. But there were a few questions in there that we picked out this week. They go together really well. I'm going to tackle the first one, and Jason's going to tackle the second one. And it'll make sense.
Right now, again, in Discord, there's a channel mailbag.
Yep.
In the mailbag, you can ask any questions, and we'll try to answer in there as well. But I think some of these questions will be helpful to everybody that's watching if you're not in Discord yet.
So this question is from C4 Collectibles. He says, "Hey fellas, at what point is a player no longer considered to be truly labeled as a prospect?" Speaking about baseball, I'm really looking for how to define it as it pertains to the hobby, when to hold and when to fold. So as somebody who has traditionally done a whole lot in the Bowman and prospecting world, that is a question that is a little bit loaded. I would say that if they haven't been to the bigs yet, that cutoff's anymore, and this is going to sound really, really like a young age, but that cutoff's about 22, maybe 23 years old.
There's exceptions, but
there are exceptions, and those exceptions occur for about a month after call up. But if you're a guy who doesn't, Caleb Durbin is a great example of that. He was second Rookie of the Year voting in the National League last year. He's 27 years old. His cards don't have any value. He's a really good player. But when people are buying Bowman firsts of players, they are, and at least theoretically, they are investing long-term in guys who have huge, high upside. Yeah. So think of the guys whose Bowman first cards have had the most value on call up and for a little while afterwards in the last few years. It's all guys who have been called up at 19, 20, 21, 22
They're
years
on
old.
Track, essentially, right?
Yeah, well, they get 5 extra years to add to that potential Hall of Fame resume. Juan Soto came up to the bigs at 19. Bryce Harper was 18. Connor Griffin, if he makes the opening day roster this year, will be 19 on opening day. I think that would be stupid for the Pirates to do, but they may do it just to sell tickets. But if you are looking at guys, so we talked about a guy last year in the call-up segment named Tim Elko. Tim Elko, and if you bought his cards and sold them immediately upon call-up when I talked about him, you made a little bit of money. But now those cards are back down to being worth what they were before he got called up because he was 26 years old. Functional bat at a big league level, a slightly above replacement level bat, but he's not going to get hobby buzz because he's too old. So for me, long answer to your question, 22, maybe 23, but really 22 is kind of the cutoff for me as far as investing goes.
Yeah. That was a long answer, Gary. I don't know if mine's going to be as long, but I'll try to make it thorough. Okay.
Fair enough.
Thorough with it. This is Ryboy808. Hey, love the pod. Thank you. Currently newer to selling, says he's been doing it almost 2 years, but just mostly in the last 4 months. I have a 9 to 5, attend car shows on the weekend. Long context. Here's my question. Now that I have picked a lane, low-end Bowman autos, and getting out once I hit 900 to 1,100% increase in value.
Great margins.
He's targeting $5 to $55. what should I do to supplement cash flow in between? I can only go out and buy so many low end Bowman autos, and now increasing to 10 to 15 base autos. Should I be going after non auto numbered Bowman base? Blah 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 blah. So let me back up really quick and say this at first. Now, that's a lane that a lot of people can do really well on. The reason you can do really well on the prospecting in Bowman is because it requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of studying and paying attention and staying on top of what's happening with players, what's happening in farm systems, with trades. Somebody was great at high A, but how did they do at 2A when they saw some real pitching? So there's so many things. And for that reason, I don't even mess with it. Now, secondly, with this discussion about 900 to 1100% profit, I think that there's some of you that hear that you're like, yeah, right, blah, blah, blah. But remember when you were doing this and you were early on and you had your first couple big gainers on players that you bought and you're like, oh, I'm just going to keep doing this, right? The law of averages, though, will say if you buy enough of those $50 Bowman First autos, 7 out of 10 of those are never going to realize gain, if not more. So what you're doing with your model isn't a bad idea when it comes to the lane of Bowman prospecting, because there is a knowledge delta that a lot of people aren't willing to cross. And if you're willing to do that and you know your stuff, you can find tons of the $15 to $50 Bowman stuff in value boxes at your local card shop. Those owners are not wanting to go through there and keep changing prices on cheap Bowman auto. If it wasn't the hit, for the most part, it's going to be in the box. But what I would encourage everyone to think about when I hear a question like this, because it's not only this, it's like, I'm buying all the Cooper flags and I'm going to hold on to them. I'm going to pay full price now because in 2 years they're going to be this. Or I'm going to buy up all the Mike Trout because Mike Trout's cheap right now, which is true. But if your metric is 900 to 1100%, I'm really concerned that you might face a massive fatigue in losses when you have several of those players that just never quite hit that number. So here's what I would encourage instead. Same filter, shorten the window down and shorten down your margins. If you could pick 5 players this month that you think have upside where you could get 30% margin on them, but you could do it in 2-3 weeks, that's how you generate the cash flow. Constant sales velocity. Now, as that happens, you're going to find the one or two. Like for me, Josue de Paula. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just too married to this kid's stuff. But he's the one guy that when I see it and I get it right, I'm going to price it as if I don't care if it sells right now. I'm going to be at the top end of the comp range, maybe even a little bit over this time of year. But by the June, July, August, if there's not much talk, guess what? Get out for me, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's encouraged to think about how quickly they'll sell through. I would not build a business expecting 900 to 1100% margins, or everyone would be doing that. There's a reason not everybody. Gary and I wouldn't do anything besides Bowman if it was just go find them and you're going to 1100x.
Now, it's reasonable. Really, it's reasonable on Bowman on the under $10 autos to say 200 to 300%.
Yeah, you could 2 to 3x. Absolutely.
But again, like to Jason's point, if your goal is to supplement in between when you buy them and when they finally get called up or get hot, you got to do stuff other than Bowman, and you got to work at it. Like there's not,
or you're buying current hot players that under market. This is the thing that a lot of people don't believe. We'll talk about it more because there were a ton of new collectors walking up to sell to us at Nashville, and more than we were expecting. But there's a deep belief in this space because product is so expensive, because wax is so expensive, because we see the marketing cycle with Fanatics and Golden and all these where it's only massive cards, just nukes, right? That we have this expectation that surely if I hold on this, it's going to go up. And I'm just here to tell you, the large majority of your cards don't do that. That's just not how it works. You know, the market will respond to you in real time. So what I would encourage is, I'm not saying do away with the Bowman Auto game. I think there's a lot of merit to that. But figure out maybe 25% of what I spend on this little side hustle, this business, this flip is stuff that's more liquid. And I'm going to try to get it at like 75%. So I'm trying to get $10 cards for $7 and I'm trying to sell them for $10. And if you could do that 30 times in a month, you know, you're starting somewhere. But as that smaller percentage of your inventory begins to churn over, it can actually fund more of those holds.
Yep.
But be smart. Just because it's a $3 auto doesn't mean it's ever going to be a $9 auto.
Right.
And even more importantly with Bowman, please listen to this. Please listen to this. With cheap Bowman autos, here's something you have to remember. Sometimes that $120 comp all of a sudden is because Jimmy's never making it past 2A and his entire family wants his autograph before they can't find the cards. And I'm telling you, I sell to them all the time on eBay. I'll send Gary screenshots of family members leaving notes. Oh, this is my, like, so is there a reason this player's going up? If you see that comment, check it. Make sure there's a reason that their value is going up. What do you have on that, Gary? Anything else?
No, I think you nailed it. Although you were longer than me, so there you go.
Well, yeah,
that's fair. But anyhow,
I love Gary because, especially after this long road trip, I'm even more annoyed. He heard me say that sentence, and then he literally looked so that he could keep score. That's how his brain works with everything. There is nothing we will ever do where you give a name, statement, or stat where he's like, how can I make this a competition that they don't know that they're in? Go ahead, Gary. What do you have next?
No, I was just going to remind everybody that has been our first mailbag that we don't want to call mailbag. So make sure if you have questions for us, jump into the Discord. The link is in the description of this video. Jump in and ask us questions and help us name this segment.
What about just the sack? Huh?
The sack? I don't hate that either.
It's not.
Is it a little much? Not little past PG-13?
Yeah. Well, it's just uncomfortable.
Well, I don't hate uncomfortable.
All right, let's talk about this Nashville trip, man. We had a lot of fun.
Yes.
So Gary and I, as you know, did it full time for a while, moved into the show scene locally. Now we're doing regional. This one was about a 6.5 hour drive from my house to Nashville, and about 1,200 tables this time. A really big show for us. The biggest show that we've set up at. We're going to get into the metrics, but the first thing I want to tell you guys is Gary's feet smelled so bad.
It wasn't the feet, bro.
Listen, I went downstairs to the lobby.
I'll give you the shoes. It wasn't the feet.
By the way, now that I'm booking this, we were at the Brentwood Hilton. It was amazing how many other full-time car dealers were there, huh, Gary? In a clean hotel with amenities. All right, so I go down and I get, my Fiji water. They should be sponsoring us. And
it started before that. It started before
Gary,
that.
See, here we go, guys. Gary, you tell me the story about you.
Well, it started when we first got back to the hotel room, and I took my shoes off, and I just kicked back on the bed, and you were looking at some cards you bought, and you turned around and looked at me like an animal in the zoo and went, bro, I'm not trying to be mean. You got to do something about your feet. That's how it started.
Which is met with immediate defensiveness and, it can't be. That's the crown jewel for Gary. It's right in front of him, and he's like, I'll argue about it. Like, I can't imagine you as a teenager. It had to be the worst thing. Gary, did you sneak out of the house last night? There's a busted window, shingles missing. He's got a shoe in the gutter. Can't help you. I didn't break out. I exited the house. I didn't. Oh, did I leave from the roof? Yeah, I did that. Why didn't you say so? Yeah, that's Gary, guys, by the way. So I walk in and just as polite as can be, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to gag if we can't do something. I'm going to go get a drink, but figure this out. I get it. We've been standing on our feet for 13 hours at that point. Nobody's got good smelling feet. So common courtesy is to address it, but he denies it. And by the way, those SpongeBob dress socks ain't helping anything.
But I went in and washed my feet.
No. Not yet. You did. Not yet. You didn't.
Before you came back.
No. Important feature. Important feature in this story. I get back in the room. He has balled up a sock, and he's looking me in the eyes, sniffing his sock as if to say, "See."
Because the sock didn't stink.
No cloud worth gagging over in the hallway, in the lobby, in the elevator. There wasn't a square foot outside of our room that smelled like that. The moment I get in, I say, have you considered it your feet? Well, I washed them, and I don't smell it in the socks. I said, well, then how about your shoes? Yeah, they're over there. They stink that bad? I don't know. I'm talking to my kids. Cover it with a shirt. Go bury it in the backyard. Throw it out in the hall. He's like, well, I like these shoes.
The point being that it wasn't my feet. It was the shoes. I will
No.
give you the shoes, but it
Your
wasn't my
feet
feet.
created an odor that was trapped because you decided to wear moisture-wicking childhood socks with Jordans.
You're
and
so
just-
angry all the
yeah.
time.
Yeah, you got them big canoes just
Ah.
like treating those Jordans were like a sauna for those
Listen,
big boats.
you
of
act
feet
like
you got.
I'm the only person on this trip that had an issue. We decide second night, hey, let's go. We're going to have sushi. There's like a little like shopping area right behind the hotel, easy walking distance. We're going to have sushi. We decide, well, we want to get a drink first. So let's stop at this little bar. And we get in there and we realize, oh, they have some.
Tell them about the French fries.
Oh, yeah. They had some pretty awesome food. And they had these garlic Parmesan tossed French fries with crab meat on top of them. Chef's kiss. Fried green tomatoes with a shrimp remoulade on top of them. Also,
Look at how his fat
Chef's
boys are
kiss.
getting worked up here at the camera.
So
Yeah,
we
it was
decide we're not going to get
good.
sushi. We're just going to stay here, have a few drinks, eat some good food. Then we leave, and Jason's like, you know what? Let's go find a bar, have a couple more drinks.
Yeah.
And he said, let me get on my phone, let me find it.
Now, by the way, Brentwood is the deadest place I've ever been to in Tennessee on a Saturday night. I've never seen anything like it. To be
He
a suburb of
looks
Nashville,
me-
what a disaster.
He looks me right in the eye after looking at his phone. He talks about me with these socks. He looks me right in the eye and goes, yep, found a bar. It's right up here. It's a 10-minute walk.
5-minute walk.
I said, okay, cool. We get to walking. Two things. One, 5-minute walk, actual 10-minute walk. Second
Hey, how's
thing,
my walking pace?
this dude is a Olympic power walker.
Hey,
My hips hurt as we're walking uphill. My hips hurt. My back hurts. I'm breathing hard. You okay, buddy? No, I'm not okay. I'm fighting for my life on this walk. And as we get up to where we're going, this dude turns around, looks at me dead in the eye, and goes, by the way, there's not actually a bar here. I don't know.
I just wanted to go explore, and it looked like there was some stuff over there.
He knew that there was no chance I was going to do that, so he just lied to me
And-
to get me to power walk.
Hey, we've walked into that fine establishment that we weren't dressed well enough for, sat at the bar, and we had a drink.
And they had already cleaned up the bar and were just waiting to close.
Well, that's what
we-
70% tips are for.
Yeah. So that was our
So in Brentwood, everybody tries to shut down 2 hours early.
right. That was our experience there. You guys already saw our stop at Buc-ee's on the way down. The jerky was immaculate. I had it for breakfast every single day.
We're going to
was
try to post a little more short form stuff. So hopefully you guys are enjoying that as well. But all right.
The
Are we
show
ready to get in
itself.
the weeds a
Yeah,
little
let's
bit?
get to the show itself.
You know what we didn't do is any show and tell. I can't
We
believe
didn't do any
plan
show.
for that.
That's all right. We'll
We'll get to it.
We'll leave the people wanting a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll leave the people wanting. I think if you came to the Nashville show, one overwhelming amount of people came up and introduced themselves to us, which we can't tell you how much that means to us.
And
like
it's so weird.
yeah,
It's
and
still weird to us.
sometimes
Yeah.
we're out here grinding this out. We're out here making this content, and we know people watch it, but when we have over the course of a 3-day show, dozens and dozens of people come up and introduce
Right.
themselves to us, it means a lot. It makes us feel like we're not just
Right.
in a basement doing something. But we were right inside the front door with Underdog Collectibles out of Knoxville, Tennessee. And so we got that first wave of traffic the whole day. What I saw more than anything else was a massive disparity in the buying and selling. We sold a ton.
By
And-
noon, we were said, "Oh no!"
Yeah, on Friday within the first like
I
2
brought
hours.
35% more inventory value than I normally do.
Yeah.
That's a big leap for me. Like for
Yeah.
me and Gary, so like here's something to consider when we talk about that. Full-time sounds cool. The trade-off is your ability to roll over inventory and scale
Yep.
gets hit every 2 weeks when you pay yourself.
Yep.
Because you have bill, like that's what full-time means, is like I'm providing. So to reach further, I'm like, man, I'm reaching a little bit. I'm reaching a little bit here. I'm gonna get some extra stuff. By noon, I looked at him and I was like, I don't have enough stuff. I
Yeah.
don't know if I have enough stuff.
We could have doubled what we took and been
Yep.
just fine.
Yep.
Which again, that's another one of those things that sounds great in theory, but you need to have the cash to do that, right?
Right.
Like you want to take 50K worth of stuff, you got to have 40 to
100K,
45K,
whatever. Yeah.
whatever it is. So you got to have the cash to do that. The selling was amazing. Very few people were trying to beat you down on price.
And if they realized it was a big room, and if it wasn't happening there, they just kept it moving, which I actually respect. They were like, "All right, see you later." I was like, "Cool, bye.
No
Have a
worries."
good one.
But the flip side of that was, and part of it, I think, was that we were the first people that a lot of people spoke to when they came in. But I also talked to a lot of other vendors, and they had the same experience. When I tell you on Saturday, which was the busiest day of the show by far, like when the show opened, there had to have been 1,000 people in line to get in the door. It was crazy. When I tell you that I had some variation of this conversation with 75 or 80 people on Saturday, that's not an exaggeration. Person walks up to the table, "Hey, are you guys buying?" "Yep, sure. Let me take a look, see what you got." "Yeah, I'm interested in this one. Do you know kind of what they're selling for?" "Yeah, they're doing about 100. "Okay, well, let me double check, make sure that's right." And I look, they are. "Okay, what do you need for it? Could you do 120? And I would just look at people and just pause. And they'd go, well, I mean, would you do 100? And Jason started laughing because what was I saying, Jason?
Finally, Gary was like, and what do you think I could sell that for? And then you'd watch him go. Like, it was like, I hadn't thought about that.
It was over and over and over and over and
but
over.
You were being grumpy about it, just flat out. You were.
Well,
you got so upset you had to walk off. I mean, chill out, bro.
By about the 30th conversation, I was like, I can't do this all day.
You know what Gary wants? Gary wants prime real estate at a 1,200 table show, and he wants everybody to pay full and sell to him at 70%. Is that too much to ask?
That is false. That is not what I'm looking for at all.
You did get grumpy though. You had to take a moment. Let's talk about it.
I did get grumpy because the first probably 2 hours of the show, and I think
second day, not first day.
Yeah, the second day, because I think part of it was the first day, the selling was so crazy. And the way I look at shows is, if one of two things is happening, I'm happy. If I'm either selling a good bit or if I'm able to buy, one of those two things. Because either way is what I'm making money. And the first probably 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours of the show on Saturday, neither was happening. I wasn't selling anything. Yeah, for me.
They were walking right past you and spending money with me.
Yeah. I wasn't selling anything. I wasn't selling anything. And everybody that tried to sell to me had hit the pipe before they came in, or they just didn't know. I think that was a lot of it. I think it was a lot of newer collectors.
That's what I kept saying to you, but you just were like in your fields, which I've been there. Here's the reality. When we're looking at that showcase and we see that type of volume, it's a huge opportunity. One of the best things that can happen to you in a card show, in my opinion. Not everybody does this. Other people have other systems to track. But if I'm at a card show and stuff is flying out of the showcase, I'm trying to buy and get it in the showcase as soon as possible, because here is where you can buy at 80, 85%. And I did on the Skeens Helix PSA 10 rookie. You can pay stronger if you know and you see the type of volume and what people are buying, and you have 2 more days. So you and I, in a moment of panic, are like, we need good stuff. Now, in the Midwest, I'll say this. There's a couple differences I noticed. One, if this is a Southern thing or just a Nashville show, most buyers paid stronger than what we typically start with for offers up in Ohio and the Midwest, Cincinnati, Indiana, that area. They were just paying stronger. The funny thing for me was the Boca Boys. I might be the only guy that got full value with backyard breaks in history. They came and bought a bunch of stuff for me, not knowing I was the one that talked so much crap about them. They bought so much, thousands and thousands of dollars. I had no idea. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
But you had like that happening. There's insecurity. It's like, do I have enough stuff? Do I get enough stuff? Where do I go buy enough stuff? Am I going to have empty showcases in 2 days? So it's easy to get spinning. And then when you're hit with one after another, and I didn't know he was getting worked up. I was having similar experiences that day. And then finally I was like, man, there's a lot of brand new collectors. It's been 3 months. They don't know. They looked on eBay. That's what they know. They don't understand. So there was a lot of, hey, this is Card Ladder. This is the best tool to use. This is what we use every day. This is an industry standard. Here's what these have sold for. And then when you would say, it looks like it sold for 100, they would say, I don't know, 110, just assuming because they hear, buy it and sell it and make money. Right. So there was a lot of educating. But I would rather, there was a quote that my professor had, a professor had in college that I loved. And it was, I went to study theology, right? And he said, I would rather have the job of restraining the fanatic than trying to wake the dead. And I would rather be at a show with 1,200 tables and constant traffic where it's a little bit more challenging on buying. But
Whoa.
if I can figure out my stuff, so that was it.
I don't disagree, but that goes back to the what you were talking about 10 minutes ago with the way my brain is wired. When I'm watching people flow past me and I'm not selling anything and I'm not buying anything, and I look over and Jason's going through piles of stuff he's buying, and then people are selling stuff and I'm selling stuff for him because he's busy buying stuff, my brain's going dun-dun, dun-dun, dun-dun. And I was like, I need 10 minutes, I'll be back.
Do you think that the person that didn't know what was going on got a different experience with me than they got with you?
I think that in general, people get a different experience with you than they get with me.
Cards aside.
I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with that situation.
That's fair. But I will say this, though. Let's get into temperaments a little bit. So
Yeah.
challenging situations, difficult sellers and buyers, not closing a deal, but just breaking the ice and getting that going. That is a wheelhouse for me. I am totally fine, and I enjoy teaching people something that are never going to buy from me. One of the things I'm most proud of from that Nashville show is how many people walked the entire room and came back to me and took my 75% offer on stuff. The reason,
Or came back and thanked you.
yes, or
Yeah.
I said, hey, they might pay stronger there. We had people commenting on stuff we've been posting saying they were so honest. They helped me get the most value. Guess who's going to walk up to my table next show? So it's like,
So you can take him to the next person to get more value, which is
Cool.
fine. Yeah, which is
Cool.
100% fine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it works, bud. Yeah, it's not all mine. I don't get all of it, but I get what people want to give it when they're working with me. So I think that approach is really important. Now, Gary, on the other hand, so direct, straightforward, to the point, blah, blah, blah. His repeats are so loyal, they'll nod at me. They don't like my personality. Like his diehard loyals are like, oh, great, another cartoon personality to deal with at a card show, right? They would rather, buy from the guy dressed as a cartoon than the guy acting
Right.
like one, right?
Yeah.
So you have a way of developing loyal customers, and they are like, oh, thank God, somebody that's so direct and not going to go back and forth and talk about stuff I don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
And here I am 3 minutes into this, rant. But I do think for both of us, there are some key takeaways and areas for growth. Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
I think I need to make a mental note before I start shows. There's probably 5% of that showcase, 10% maybe, where it's like, hey, this is a card. You just stay there, man. Give it the whole show. And if it doesn't sell in the whole show and there haven't been other comps, you might still have the right sticker.
Yep.
That's a hard thing to believe for a guy that was coming from the reselling eBay world of like, flip it, get what you can, buy again. Flip it, get what you can, buy again. But I still think that there were some deals where, we're 10, 15 slabs in and they have another card that they really want and they're really trying to work that down. And I could have said no and still gotten the deal. I could have said no and maybe held out, or I could be coming back with the card, but I didn't give up that. But I would say that there were a few bigger ones that I put in that showcase where I just wanted to keep it moving that I could have held out a little longer.
Yeah.
That would be one of the things that I can improve on. What about you, Gary? I know you love self-reflection in front of a bunch of people.
Oh, I think
your favorite?
I think the biggest one for me is this was a show where I made the decision, and you guys all gave me a hard time about it, listeners.
Let's talk about it.
Jason even did a video making fun of me, but this size of a show, I made the conscious decision to come into the show with much more hyper liquid stuff than I normally do. And I use that term because I hate admitting that means case hits, but I did. I came into the show with 18 or 19 case hits, and within the first 30 minutes of the show, 17 of those 18 were gone. And within the first 24 hours of the show, the last one was gone. It was the most expensive one.
Yeah.
I think that at the end of the day, as much as I hate it, and I don't know that it would mean as much at smaller shows, especially where we have a little more brand recognition, at these types of shows, if you're going to play this game where the cost to be there is a whole lot higher, and you got to have the stuff that the big buyers want and they're willing to pay strong on. I think that's my big takeaway from it.
Yeah. Is there anything you would do different with those conversations if that starts happening again at another big show?
As far as what conversation?
So like for you and I, so if we get hit with a wave where it's like, okay, people are walking up to sell stuff,
Yep.
and we're noticing that like the large majority are not quite sure how they even want to go about the negotiation, would you handle it differently?
I'd like to say yes, but probably not. If I'm being perfectly,
if you did, well,
I mean, I think that
I remember at one point you're like, I'm gonna get a breather. I said, good.
Yeah.
Because I've been there too, man.
Yeah, I
sometimes
think
it's just somebody not even trying to, and they're just able to, it's a lot of interactions in one day.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, for me, you know this about me, and I've said it on this podcast before. There are very few things on planet Earth that frustrate me more than feeling like I'm wasting time. And I made the conscious effort at this show to not ask some of the front end questions that I normally ask, like, what percentage do you need to be at if you're selling this stuff? I just was like, oh, let's see where things go. And where things went when I didn't ask those questions was me wasting a lot of my time.
So do you think if you're noticing that there's a higher uptick of new collectors? Because I can't. So you were upset. I understand that you felt like that was happening, and it was like a bad combo of like a random dead 2 hours off the rip and that. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
I would have been in the same boat. I look at you sometimes when that's happening by noon and you're like, oh, I've already done X. And I'm like, must be nice. I'm like all like ready to pack up and leave. Right.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, guys, if you're going just show scene and you don't have any other streams of revenue in this space, buckle up emotionally. You are not completely in control. There's much that you are in control of, but you're going to have shows where it's just like, there's some shows where there's no rhyme. Gary and I could have the exact same showcase, and for whatever reason, the flow of traffic's hitting one side of the table over the other, and that person's going to do twice as much.
Yep,
it happens. But I think you're saying like, so some of those lead-in questions might be more helpful because I think there's a lot of dealers that are newer to this that are getting some experience, and they have 5 shows where they're able to buy right, and then they get hit with that show where buying is tough.
Yeah.
And so I think one that I would be interested, I may lead that question a little bit more with somebody that's newer, hey, you're selling to a dealer. Have you ever done that before? If they seem like that, you don't want to start that with everybody, but if you kind of get that impression, okay, do you have an idea what you're expecting on, like, if a card's worth $10, what are you expecting the dealer to pay? Do you have any idea? Or do you just want me to add up this pile and give you an offer? But most times they say, oh, sure. Yeah. And then you get to the number and it's exactly what you talked about.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it would matter that much. I think it matters more how they interact with us, because I think there's a percentage of the people where that deal never happens, but they remember how we treated them.
Yeah.
And so yes and no, but if it was 20 people like that nonstop, we wouldn't be able to get anything done.
And that's why I had to step away in that situation, because I had been a good boy. I had not snapped. I had not like lost my mind, and I felt it coming. I was like, I'm gonna look at somebody and call them stupid in a minute if I don't walk away.
But can I do something that I don't normally do on the pod? Just lean in a little here. If everyone was suffering, you would have a little less problem with it.
Fair.
Think about that for a second.
No, no, there's no question. You literally just said the same thing about yourself. When you're eating turds and the people besides you on either side are not eating turds, you start to question yourself.
What's the healthy response?
Oh, I'm not interested in therapy. I don't know what the healthy response is.
I'm not trying to give you therapy. I'm trying to be a resource to people that do this.
Sure. What's the healthy response?
And I don't want to give them the idea that we just have a crappy attitude and tell them that the buyers are stupid and I'm tired of these new collectors.
No, well, I tried to do what I thought was healthy and just take a deep breath and look at you and go, hey, I'm going to go to the restroom. I'll be back in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Well, I think what I would say that the answer is when we feel like that is to take a deep breath and remember that this show, no matter what this does, is such a small piece of everything that happens in this business, period.
Sure.
And especially after a day.
Matters.
Yeah. Like on a day where let's be honest. After Friday, we wouldn't want to, but if we had to pack up and head back, we had a great week.
Sure.
And so it's hard to maintain that perspective and expectation. But the other thing I said too is like, look, we still have stuff in these showcases, but this stuff got picked hard.
Yeah.
So we're sitting here with collectors and user stuff, right? Not a lot of that super liquid stuff. And then we're in a prime spot where this traffic's coming in. Like, I'm not surprised that a lot of that was there. Now, I will say this. Wasn't a lot of stuff over $300 that we even saw walk up.
No, and the stuff that we
Like
did was like, this is a
10%?
$900 card. What do you need for it? 13.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
It's like,
There's a lot of that. But like again, if you're a new collector this year, what have you seen? What have you seen over and over and over? These cars just keep going up, just keep going up, just keep going. Like the Shohei narrative is huge. Like in front of people right now, there is a player whose market has not stopped, and we're about to be into the season again. Has that happened in baseball since Trout 8-10 years ago?
No, and I think I think we are reaching the point with Shohei. And Shop Talk is coming up here in a minute, and Keith just sold a Shohei. Snap sold him. We'll talk about it because he posted on all of his socials.
Yeah.
Snap sold on eBay.
Base
Like,
Bowman Chrome.
base Bowman Chrome Shohei rookie. Snap sold at $1,550 on eBay. Snap, like 10 minutes posted.
Keith texted me and said, "What do you think this card did?" Now, again, I know the trajectory of Shohei, but I still don't believe. And my immediate thought was like, "Oh, geez, that's probably a crazy number." I don't know, $900 to $1,100. He's like 15, over 15 immediately.
And I think we are reaching the point with Shohei. It doesn't matter how good he is. At a certain point, a market can't bear exponential growth.
That card is the one that surprises me.
Well,
That number. Sure.
It's his main. It was his first rookie card.
Sure.
Bowman came out before. It's the card. It's one of the few examples in baseball where a Bowman rookie card is worth considerably more than a Topps rookie card.
Sure.
By a margin of 400 or 500%.
Yep.
But at a certain point, we have to ask, like we were talking about this before the episode, like what current existing players as they were playing has this happened with before, and what has happened to their markets? You just talked about Trout. Mike Trout in COVID, his PSA 10 rookies were doing $3,500, $3,800 base ones. Now they do $800 to $900. Jordan rookies during COVID got PSA 10s got to $2 million. Now they're $150. LeBron, current player, his Topps Chrome refractor PSA 10s were six figures. Now they're 20% of that. At a certain point, this Shohei market is going to shift, and it likely will have nothing to do with his quality as a player. But at a certain point, it will collapse under its own weight. I really hope some of you guys aren't the ones holding the bag when that happens.
Yeah.
Like I would not touch a raw base Bowman Chrome Shohei Ohtani rookie. I don't think I would pay more than $600 for one.
I would touch it immediately and sell it.
Well, if I had an out for it,
at some point soon,
you're going to touch it immediately and be unable to sell it.
Yeah.
Like that's the issue.
But I don't think it's going to happen before the end of the season unless something happens. Like, do you think it's in the next 6 months? What in the world would cause that?
Injury.
The market's not. Well, yes, that's it though. That's it.
Well, injury and again, the market just at a certain point, it doesn't matter whether you're an investor or whatever. At a certain point, you look at a market and go, "There's too much of this for it to be worth what it is." Why did the Beanie Baby market collapse?
Those sucked.
It sucked to us, but to the people who were into it, Pokemon is experiencing it right now. The Pokemon market is slowing down. It's not collapsing, but it's drastically slowing down as people shift their focus elsewhere.
Have we seen? We haven't seen anything like Shohei in baseball since cards existed.
True, but Shohei has been active as a player. This will be his 8th season. one of those seasons was a strike season or a COVID season, not a strike season. There's a very high probability we have a lockout or a strike.
This is a great point here.
And of those other seasons, 2 of them he was injured. He's basically had 3 MVP seasons in 4 healthy years. That's awesome, but he does have real injury concerns, and we may have a lockout. Is he an amazing player? Of course. Is he going to be
Somebody
a Hall
walks
of
up
Famer?
to you with that Bowman Chrome rookie this week at a show and asks $1,000. You're not buying it? I don't believe you.
At 60%, maybe.
Nobody's going to do that with a Shohei,
right. But like my point is at a certain point, especially if you aren't like us where you're constantly churning inventory, if I'm just a guy on the sidelines buying some stuff and hoping it goes up in value, I'm sure not paying $1,500 for a base raw.
What were these
Ohtani
doing like 2-3 years ago when we were setting up?
I sold PSA 9s of that card.
I had some 9s.
$240, $250.
150 to 250.
Yeah.
I don't think I had any 10s, but I had several
10s
9s.
were like $600. I mean, if a raw's 15, 10's
I mean,
now.
I sold his Topps All Aces insert for $180.
They were $30 cards 3 months ago.
It's interesting. So all of this is a filter. If I'm getting into the space, I'm hearing about it's Shohei. It's not Zion. It's not Jaw. It's Shohei. It's Shohei. And the difference, if you're a new person with what you're hearing from what a lot of the people in the late teens coming into COVID got into was the person that is growing is not a new rookie, but it is an established great. That is a little bit unique from what many people experienced in the last 5 years coming into this. So if I'm a new collector, it's very believable that what I have is going to go up. That's all I've been hearing.
I just know I've seen this movie over and over and over.
Oh, I don't disagree at all.
We saw this movie with Trout when Trout stuff was going up. He's the greatest player of the generation.
But it gives you the perspective. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's not why are people doing this? I know why people are doing this. So it's not going to let that piss me off because they have no idea. I'll explain it to them. And if they want to stay delusional with information, it's not delusion when you don't know. When you understand, and then you're like, I still want to be higher than it's ever sold for.
Yeah.
Well, no. You know? Or it's got to be the right card for it.
Well, yeah, but even then, that right card isn't going to be the base Bowman Chrome rookie raw.
No.
So, all right. Well, before we get to the meat and potatoes, we've already been going an hour, so we will try to get into the meat and potatoes as best we can. What do we have next, Jason?
Oh, coming up next, we have Shop Talk with Keith Neuhart from Neuhart Cards.
Hi, this is Keith Neuhart, and this is Shop Talk. This week I wanted to take a step back a little bit. Instead of talking specifically about what we're doing in the shop and those type of things, I wanted to talk about what happens when you first start. What happens when you first decide I'm going to start a business. First thing, the easiest part to do it is a business plan, right? So a business plan is basically a written statement. This is what I'm going to do. You know, these are going to be my people. This is kind of what I want to do. I want to sell sports cards for a living. Okay. What's the next step after that? I think it's going to be your business model, right? So how am I going to sell those sports cards? How am I going to buy those sports cards? So a business model basically runs you through the process of how are you going to make that business plan work? How's it going to run? For us, that was early on. It's an ever-changing model, obviously. So when we first started, the only thing we wanted to do is we wanted to really focus on buying. Get that buying machine up and running. And at that time, $100 or $200 at a time was a big buy for us. And we've talked earlier on about eBay being such a big part of our plan because there were days when 1 or 2 people would walk in. So that business model at the time was buy singles, have a little bit of wax on the walls, and kind of get it started that way. Now, 10 to 15 years later, there's so many different parts of that model that didn't even exist then. First of all, repackers. That was not a thing. Now it's a fairly significant part of our business that we sell to other people who are then putting that package together, putting in another product. So that did not exist back then. So that changed our model. Second of all, 3 years ago, we started selling TCG. We started selling Pokemon. I went into that kicking and screaming, didn't want anything to do with that, right? Now it's 10 to 15% of our business and growing exponentially, far exceeding what the sports card market is doing, to be quite honest with you. So kind of wanted to talk about that again. Gary and Jason started a Discord. No idea what that means, but I'm going to be a part of that. So come and join that. And then next week, I think we're going to talk about probably the single most asked question as a little tease. So we'll be back and talking about that next week. So again, if you have any other questions, drop it in the Discord, send us a text or an email, and we will reach out to you. So thanks. This has been Keith at Shop Talk.
All right, so a quick challenge for those of you that may be like moving into the business side of this. You hear what Keith says. What did he talk about? A business plan and a business model. So spend some time thinking about that. I think a lot of people have a plan, but when you get into the model, it's like, oof, I don't know what I want to do first. I want to do everything. It's going to force you to kind of plan out what those steps might be. Again, a reminder with our new Discord, go join us. Keith is going to be on there once I show him how to use it. Once I learn how to use it.
We had to learn how to use it.
And Keith's going to try like every week to hop on and look at questions. Some of them he might answer in the video. Others he'll just answer in the Discord chat. But you have a spot in there to just ask an LCS owner anything you want. I think that's pretty cool. And then on top of that, Gary and I just want to say thank you. Talking with Keith last week, and he said that some of you are starting to pop into the shop just from hearing the podcast, seeing videos, wanted to meet Keith, wanted to hang out there, spending money with him. That means a lot to us, that because of being able to partner with him on some content stuff, that you've had that level of trust, and you're bringing liquidity to that local community and that LCS. And I think that's great. I'll try not to be too grifty about that, but it means a lot to us that somebody that we believe in the way that they do it, which is the most important thing, who they are as they lead that business, that they're getting some love as a result of you guys. So that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Meat and potatoes, Gary calls it. We're going to talk about going up the show ladder. So our experience from deciding that we were going to mess with this to larger and then national level shows, and then talking through the different dynamics that you need to consider. And this is all based of our experience and failures. I think that's a really important detail. You hear Gary and I fuss with each other, and I leaned into him in that because it was what I felt in the moment. Gary knows that. I don't ever apologize for being like, why'd you feel like that? Because I expect the same thing for him. It's the only way we work through stuff.
Well, and we very clear. We have gotten comfortable at the 300 to 500 table show.
Sure.
Like, we're pretty comfortable there.
Yeah.
This Nashville show was a huge leap for us.
Yeah.
Almost triple the size of the biggest shows we have done leading up to it. So we don't ever want to pretend when we talk about something like this that we have every answer out there, but we will share our experiences with you. And we get a lot of questions. Hey, I'm thinking about starting to do shows. Mm-hmm. What do I do? Should I, around here, it's Xenia or Eastgate, and those are 300 to 500 table shows. Yep. Should I do that show? Probably not right off the rip.
Yep.
So let's talk about what that looks like starting and how to climb it.
Okay. And just for perspective, you're going to need to do all these. So you're going to have different strategies each week. We just got back from Nashville, but this Sunday we're going to be at a 100 table show in Circleville, Ohio, where I went to college, a little small town of 15,000 people. It'll be a local rural show, and there's different dynamics there. So as I was buying inventory today, that was a filter. Some of the stuff I picked up was different than what I normally would because I was considering that. So let's try to do this in the history of context, okay? And what I want to do, Gary, if it's okay, because I know that you stayed in it, and whether you were setting up and all that was kind of off and on for a long time. Mm-hmm. But let's zero in on like the last 6-7 years, okay?
Sure.
6-7 years, and talk through that a little bit. And let's start with the staple show in Columbus that many people experience as their first show on South High Street. Rob Dolby's run that for a very long time, does many shows. How many tables is that? 20 to 40 tables, 25 to 40?
Right now, it's probably 25. At the time, it was consistently 30 to 35 tables.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the size of the show that I would think you and I would say that's the show we kind of cut our teeth on. Is that fair to say as dealers?
Yes.
That was the regular show that we started with.
Yep, and I remember it wasn't the first show I ever did. The first show I ever did, I made the mistake of trying to do a big show. And I drove all the way almost to Chicago to do it. The first show I ever did, it was a 400 table show. And I was completely lost. I didn't have the right inventory. I thought it was a big deal. I had like 10 cards that were worth $100. I thought I was just rolling. And I came home from that show with like $2,200 and thought that I had just crushed the world.
Right.
And I probably did less than anybody in the room. So yeah, that show on South High, it really was like the staple monthly show that I did. And then you started doing, and I'm a pretty firm believer that if you're wanting to do this, those are the type of shows you want to start at, for lots of reasons. One, you don't have to have crazy amounts of inventory to be successful. A rule of thumb that I was given when I first started doing this was a good way to judge your starting point as far as your amount of inventory, is if you have about 30 to 40x in inventory tag value what your tables cost you, it's not a bad spot to start. So if it's a $30 table and you've got $1,200, $1,000 to $1,200 worth of stuff, pretty good chance you're not going to lose money doing the show if you got a good variety.
Well, I'll just be honest. When I was starting with this, there was no formula for me.
Sure.
I wasn't thinking about any of that. I had been selling pretty effectively on eBay, doing everything selling, doing a lot of apparel on eBay. There was still a lot of opportunity to source good stuff. It wasn't as competitive. It was pre-COVID. I just had Sally Mae bills that went nuts, and the church I was working at was full of crap and started paying me less and offering less benefits. And there was just all kinds of the fun stuff people get in big churches. And so I was like, I've got to go figure out how to make money when I'm not working way too many hours a week. And that was eBay. Cards picked up. And then I was pretty good on the Facebook sales. I did very well with that. I would flip a lot on there.
Those dollar box sales.
Oh my gosh. I would do very well on that. And it was like setting up at a show. That's where all the old guys buy and sell cards. That's this and that. And Gary kept talking. I was like, come on, man, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure it's a blast. Blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, well, you need to price everything out. I was like, this sounds like tons of work. I can just throw it up on Facebook and say, $5, $20, whatever. So setting up at that was overwhelming. I remember everybody in the room, and a 30 table show on your first one, you walk in, everybody smells blood in the water. I can't tell you how many guys that they probably don't even know it now. They probably laugh at it. They probably didn't realize they did it. But guys that are super big regulars, some of them are show promoters now and do this full time too. They were like, what, you got in that box? Have you seen the box? Everybody wanted that box. They knew it was somebody that had no clue what they were doing was bringing in a bunch of cards. And it was overwhelming. But that small environment is great because I think I developed a handful of relationships right the way. And I didn't even know everybody's name, but it was just, there was a place to discuss this and hang out. It was right as everything was about to go nuts, right? Was this right before lockdowns and stuff that I started messing with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Early 2020.
Okay. But I remember the first time I came home with $1,000 in my pocket, and I was like,
oh,
this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that probably was like 70% of my table.
Mm-hmm.
People probably bought some big boxes. I remember buying cards that I was so pumped about, and I realized I comped that wrong. It never was right. Some of those smaller shows, you've also got tables that are at 300% tags, and they don't care. They just didn't want to be at home.
Yep.
So that scene was really good because it taught me what got attention. There's a 30 table show. There was a handful of people at that time that were basically sourcing to do thread sales on Facebook. Nobody's doing Whatnot or anything yet. It was either breaking Facebook sales or eBay or shows, right? But I started paying attention to what would people slow down for. If they didn't like my sticker, what inserts were they slowing down? And I would watch their eyes. I would watch where their eyes stopped. I know it sounds super weird, but it was just trying to make a note of it. But that early small show scene, if I hadn't committed to that and gone to a bigger show, there's no way I would be doing cards right now. I'd have been so overwhelmed. Right. So overwhelmed.
So when you were doing those shows, because for the longest time, you were only doing one, maybe two shows a month. You weren't on the same pace that I was.
I didn't want that.
Yeah.
I just thought it was like a supplemental thing for my reselling business because cards was 2020 cards was just a portion of that.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's talk about for guys that are like, okay, I'm going to do that. when did you know, and then I'll give my answer, but when did you know that it was like, okay, I think I'm ready to try a 75 to 100 table show? Because the difference between a 30 and a 60 table show is minimal. That next step up is probably that 80 to 120, 75 to 125 table show.
I remember the exact moment. I had just done that small show, and it was a week where our family really needed me to sell some cards. I'll just
Yeah.
leave it at that. And I came home and I had only done $200. I'm getting emotional remembering that. I had spent so much time pricing this out, and I was like overwhelmed. I was burnt out at work. I needed that win in my life. I know it sounds silly, but I know that there's guys watching this that this is providing an opportunity. And I came home and I cried in front of my wife, and I felt even more stupid that here I am crying because I couldn't sell enough cards, because I was going to do it and I couldn't. And I was pouting about it. I don't remember that, but I remember like that next Monday, I woke up and I was just like, oh, we ain't going out like that. And if I was willing to have that experience with something where I didn't have a lot of extra time to invest in that, and believed that I was going to learn this, I was going to let myself quit on this so quickly. That's when I knew, like, I kind of love this shit.
Yeah.
I think I really do love doing this, because to evoke that kind of emotion out of me over something that was just an extra thing that maybe didn't even matter. In hindsight, I look back at that like nobody at home was upset. Nobody at home was mad. You know, that was something I put on myself, but I wanted this. That was when I realized I want this. I want to do this. I don't know what capacity, but for me, it was the failure that was like, no, like my superpower, you know this, Gary, I am a cockroach. That's it. I'm a resilient dude. I deal with stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's come my way, and I just stick around and keep going through it.
Yeah.
And come out the other side of it. And so it was failure for me. I remember that show vividly. I remember my wife putting her hand on my back, comforting me. And I'm like, I'm such a freaking loser. I'm being emotional about how I did this card show. Why does this matter so much to me?
Yeah.
And I remembered something I had heard back in the day when I was in some leadership and some ministry stuff. And it was like, what keeps you up at night? What do you care about? There's probably a reason for that, you know? So that's my very emotional TED Talk about it.
So for me, and those are, I mean, I think that when you're climbing the ladder and you go it's time to go, you'll know when it's time to move from that small 30 table show where everybody knows everybody and it's the same buyers coming in every month to buy new things for their collection and dig through the same dollar boxes that they've looked at 100 times before. For me, that was when, as you do this for a while, the quality and the price point of your inventory will start to rise.
Yep.
And for me, when I reached the point where my sales were going down as the quality of my inventory went up, it was me recognizing that the type of buyer that is at this small local show, with very, very few exceptions, wasn't interested in transitioning with me as my inventory scaled. And at that point, it was like, okay, it's not time to never do this show again, because I continued to do that show on South High till probably about 2 years ago. When it reached the point where I needed to take different inventory to that show in order to sell things, it was like, okay, there's got to be a place where this new stuff that I have at a higher price point, a higher quality, is desired because I see it selling other places. So then it was like, okay, what's the next step? And for me, that was getting outside of the Columbus area, which is where I did most of my stuff, you know, a Lancaster show here or whatever. And it was like, okay, Xenia. And at the time it wasn't Xenia. That show actually was taking place in Dayton, and it was about 120 tables. And I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. And lo and behold, I got there, and I still was able to sell some of that lower end stuff. But now the stuff that I had been raising the quality of my inventory for was moving there. And then when that Dayton show got sold to the gentleman who ran Xenia, then Xenia at the time was, now everybody knows it as one of the bigger regional shows in the country every month. But at that time, when Xenia first went, it was 140, 150 table show in one building at the Xenia Fairgrounds, not 3 like it is now. So I think for me, each step on that rung was, as the quality of my inventory went up, the people at the shows that I was at weren't interested in moving up with me. It's time to go to the next level.
Yeah.
That was the metric that I used. Now, you're still going to need to, as you climb those ladders, have stuff at different price points. But then the game wasn't, how do I continue to raise? It was, as I'm looking at different shows in different regions, how do I figure out which ones make sense for me?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, was that a similar experience for you?
I think once I was determined that I wanted to push that a little further and see what could happen with it, it was when I started noticing by noon, because my filter was, do I have enough cards and people will give me cash for cards? I wasn't thinking about churning inventory. I wasn't thinking about the next week. I wasn't thinking about the next hour. I was thinking, is somebody going to pause at my showcase and hand me money? And I remember one show where I felt like I was given too many discounts, which you remember early on. I just wanted a handshake and $5 a card. Yeah. People were loving me early.
I know this box is worth $3,000, but if you're going to give me $1,000 right now, cool, I'll take it.
It was like that. It was, and there was a fear of like, all right, I don't want to come back with nothing, right? Probably that filter from that day where I was like, I'm never going to come back with that again. If I do that again, I'd quit, right? But as I began to notice like stuff was churning, I would have a day like that and I was still up. The value was up. I sold cards for more than I bought them for. Good job, me, with the whole day. When I quit opening wax was probably around the time where I began to go do mid-size shows and realize I get paid way more money. Yep. Way more money if I just quit ripping these packs and go buy cards that I like.
Yep.
And so I think what's weird to me is it's been a bit of a blur. I really do have a hard time mapping out exactly what year was this show or that show. But looking back, when I committed to monthly, I will be here for this show, that was that step to, because before that, it was just call somebody, are there any extra tables next week, right? Find a show, right? And then it became, hey, I like this show. Can I have a table every month?
Yeah.
And that was probably the first, I mean, it was just a verbal commitment. I'm on the hook $35, $40 back then, right? But I think that was that step in that direction. Now, I had the advantage of having you as a friend, and you were 3-4 years ahead of me on like the show scene and the space. And you're like, you want to do more shows? Like, you were so excited. You were so excited because we set up separately.
Yeah.
We weren't set up together with anything.
No.
The podcast was, I don't, when would that have been? We were probably recording it, but it wasn't like we were telling anybody about it.
No,
it was more just for us.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I think that switch to the mid-size is when I started noticing I had to think by halfway through the day, oh, do I have enough stuff? When I started noticing that is when I began to push out to some of the bigger shows. I was like, oh, I could sell a lot more. There's more people here.
And now we're to the point where the opportunities to do things like we just did are in front of us. Yeah. And in full transparency for you guys, because that's how we do things. I think it's part of why you guys that are watching, it resonates what we do with you, because we don't try to BS. These types of shows that we're having put in front of us are a much bigger, not just opportunity, but it's a lot of a push for us. It's a risk for us. It is, hey, I got to stretch the money I'm going to spend. I want to keep X dollars liquid at all times. And I depleted that for this show by 80% just to like make sure I was ready for it. Now, did it pay off? Yes. But did it pay off? It hasn't paid off enough times for me to feel comfortable doing it. It's going to be uncomfortable to do Dallas. It's going to be uncomfortable to do Philly. It's going to be uncomfortable to do the East Coast show, because I know that I stretched hard for this show and it wasn't enough.
Yeah,
I got to stretch more.
I think what a lot of people do at the point that we're at, where they make their biggest mistake, is they're going to overextend and tap into credit that they shouldn't, or the space that I was completely naive to was basically this loan sharking that happens with people with a card business. There's some of it that's healthy. There's some of it that is just rough stuff. But when people see people that are willing to work every week and they're churning through money, they realize they can get better yields than they do in the standard market. They just go after you and say, oh, I'll throw you some money. You throw me some points. But boy, they can make the wrong decision, buy the wrong inventory. One bad collection purchase, you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
So that's the hard thing, is that you and I have committed, like, we're going to scale this thing organically and it's going to take 2-3 years longer. Now, somebody wants to parachute in and hand us a few $100,000 and say, hey, give me some, we're going to look at anything.
Sure.
But I think we lose some steps in the process that are very important. Money doesn't solve what we need. Money isn't complete enough to solve the growth that's needed for you and I to sustain larger shows. We need to learn systems, inventory. One thing that's blaringly obvious is buying. We have got to organize it. We got to organize how this is going to happen at tables. Because right now we're just so used to, at 300 tables, sure, everybody come up, just hand it over. Bob. If you can't send people somewhere, you're losing all kinds of money that's not being seen in the showcase. There's not much organization. The people that are going to waste your time, if they have to wait in a line for 5 minutes, might skip right on along and save you. But there's things that we're going to have to do to be more efficient at that size, I think.
Yeah. And I think that if you're watching this, as you are scaling and growing and moving up that show ladder, one of the things that is so valuable, and it is something that comes very natural to Jason. It doesn't come supernatural to me, but being in Jason's proximity has helped. Not being afraid to network and ask people who have been there. It doesn't, and listen, as a guy who's damn near 50, who has done a lot of things in his life, who's been reasonably successful at a number of different things, I have to swallow my pride and be willing to ask a 25-year-old that has done better than me in this. And learn. And we've been able to develop relationships with people that we've had on the pod who are more successful than we are in this space, and be willing to swallow your pride and say, hey, how did you do this? What was it? And sometimes, listen, let's not be naive. Sometimes the answer is, I had a whole lot of money to do it with. Sometimes, sometimes that's the answer. But a lot of times it's not. A lot of times, some of the people, guys, listen when I say this. It applies to me. It applies to Jason. It applies to some of the people that you watch in content in this space more than you possibly can imagine. We buy cool stuff, but it's a stretch sometimes. You see a guy drop 15 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand on a card. Don't assume that there's hundreds of grands or tens of grand behind that waiting. They dropped 30K on this card and it left him with 4 grand. They got to move that card pretty quick to get liquid again. It's not an endless stream of cash behind this stuff. So,
well, the next thing too for us, Gary, I think you're making great points, is the next step beyond us is I don't know a better way of calling it, but like your arbitrage path is already laid out. So the guys that are doing the huge national shows that are buying the $30,000 cards probably already have 3 to 5 names or the right auction house in mind. They may shoot a message before they even put an offer in. But you and I, at our size, especially if we have a little bit of a local love from the content or whatever, we can just keep going one off. This is the right type for the showcase. But I think at that scale, those guys are like, I'm going to buy it all, and this is going to be already on Whatnot by Wednesday. This will be to this buyer. This is going to Fanatics auction, Golden, whatever. And here's the really big boys that this buyer buys from me.
We had a guy we talked to at the show this weekend, and another vendor who was there, and he only had one showcase out, and it didn't have that much stuff in it. And he just had a big thing up, and he sat in front of it all weekend, and it was buying. And 9 out of 10 cards that he handed somebody money for, he was paid for before the next morning, and they were in the mail.
I think when you talk scale, there's a visual that a lot of people have that are setting up at shows that eventually it's just going to be windfalls of money and it's all right there. But it's still, you're not selling out. Like if you sell all of your cards, you're giving up like when people say, oh, somebody bought me out, that's great. What was your percentage? Really?
Did you make money there, or did you just get your cash back?
Or did you get cash? Because now you got to go buy it again. But yeah, I think there's different systems that need to be like, so for us, my reflection is we got to get way more efficient at how long buying takes. We got to find a way to be quicker, to move a conversation along politely, and to be helpful when it's not there if there's other people waiting.
And we
We've
both
got-
struggle with that from different sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, it's I risk being too rude, and you risk spending too much time.
Yeah. So I think there's some growing pains there for us along the way with that kind of stuff. But I don't think we'll be at less big shows. Like we're going to be doing that more.
Yep.
And I think we're going to have to figure out what will be tough is like, you're not going to be able to do all the big shows and keep those promoters happy that you've seen every single month for the last 10 months.
Yeah.
You're going to have to make some decisions.
Yeah. And sometimes those decisions are, hey, we love you. We love what you do. We want to continue to be a part of it whenever it's possible for us to do so. If that means we're going to pay you $500 or $600 this year for tables that we never use and you resell them to somebody else, that's what we'll do. Yeah.
Any other reflections? I'm sure that we could have gotten a little more into the weeds on this, but just an encouragement to anybody more than anything, right? Like people that are starting in this. I know some of you messaged, you were setting up your first shows or you ran one last week. I mean, I'll tell you, there's two ways. If you had a rough show, right? First off, that's the first time I think I've cried on this, right? But like, I've been there, man. And there's a couple ways that can motivate you. It can motivate you to quit, or it can motivate you, man, I really want to figure this out. I'm going to take this seriously.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how important that decision was. I didn't realize how fortunate I was to be as stubborn as I am.
Right.
Honestly, like it paid off, right?
Yeah.
And so you had a bad show. So what? There's another show next week.
Always
Price
another
your stuff,
deal. Always
get
another
your
show.
comps right. Go get a table and run it back.
Yeah.
Figure it out. You're going to learn. Learning is way more important than the money right off the bat.
Yep.
I know it doesn't feel like that, but.
And self-reflection matters. Like if you had a bad show, sometimes, and it's the rarity, it really just was a funky show.
Yeah.
Nothing you did was wrong. You didn't do
Yeah.
anything wrong.
Yeah.
I had one of those about 6 months ago. Jason and I were sat right beside each other. We price our stuff very similarly. Jason literally did 10 times as much as I did.
It's not funny. I'm just remembering that
No.
day.
Yeah, but
Because I looked over you and like, how much you done? And you're like, $500.
Yeah. But that's the rarity. Here's the hard part for anybody who is a entrepreneur to hear. Most of the time when that happens, you did something wrong.
Yep. Look inward first.
Most of the time you did something wrong. You were too aggressive with your stickers. You were too married to your cards. You bought them wrong. You weren't willing to take a loss on something.
Yep.
Most of the time, especially with the state this hobby is in right now, if you're setting up at shows and you aren't able to sell stuff, you either don't have stuff people want or you're priced wrong.
Yep.
Now, is that always the case? No. But be willing to look at yourself before you point fingers at the promoter, before you point fingers at the stubborn customers. If you had a card in your showcase for $120 and you got 10 offers at $95 and you didn't take one of them, you're probably the problem.
Yeah.
It's probably a $95 to $100 card.
Yeah.
And if you paid $100 for it, it may just be time to take that $5 loss and get back to work with the 95.
Yep. All right. A lot to think about there. Put everybody through the ringer. We promise guests are coming up. We're working on, a fun list of those.
Yep.
Reminder, we're on Whatnot 3 times a week. Every Sunday at 4:30 Eastern, both of us do a show together. And then Gary and I typically have an individual solo show every week. Gary's flirting with the idea of some different theme shows, like a goat show, a 90s show. So be paying attention as inventory changes. I'm the type of guy that like picks a lane and then I don't mind experimenting with it. Gary and I are very different like that. But I really like what he's on to. There'll be some fun stuff on with that. Discord is available for you.
Yes, jump into
join
Discord.
In the chat. I think we have like 60 people already.
In like 3
I
days.
checked a minute ago. There's 15 people just hanging out in there.
Yeah.
There is different content. I would encourage you, if you find your way in, to check out the welcome video. It was Gary and I after a couple brewskis in Nashville, and it is funny. But go give Discord join that and join in the conversation there. Shows the next few weeks. This Saturday, Gary will be set up at Northgate, Cincinnati. My daughter's birthday. She has 8 friends sleeping over with her.
Jason's 50-50.
I probably won't make it out to that one. I can't do that to my wife, I don't think. But Sunday, I will be with Gary in Circleville at that show. That's at the high school. The following week, one of our favorite times of the year, Ship Shawana in Indiana up in Amish country. If you haven't been, it's the one show I ask people about all the time. I tried to convince 10 people to go to Ship Shawana while we were in Nashville. 2 days, lots of fun. So make sure to check that out. Then what do we have the week after that? There's another one or we have a week off. And
we have a week off, and then Bronco Bash over in Daleville, Indiana. It's a 300+ table show
close to Anderson.
Yeah. So if you are in that area or within a couple hours, it'll probably be worth the trip out. And then it'll be Xenia time again, and then I'll be gone for a couple weeks on vacation, and you'll just get to see Jason. And before you know it, it's going to be summer. Because time isn't real.
I can't wait. All right. Is that it, Gary? Is there anything else we got to cover?
No, we just went 90 minutes with just us.
All right. We love y'all. We'll see you on Discord. This has been the Ballcard Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
Bye now.
Peace.